Imagine celebrating your 29th birthday alone, only to find out your own mother had been spending years systematically destroying your financial future behind your back. One forged signature at a time. Before we dive into how I discovered her secret and fought back, I want to ask you, where are you watching this video from today? Let me know in the comments below. My name is Celeste. I'm 29 years old. The night I realized the truth started with a birthday party I threw for myself because no one else was going to. I had turned 29 3 days earlier. There was no call from home, no text, not even one of those automated Facebook reminders that somehow still feel personal when you're lonely enough. So, I booked a corner table at a wine bar near my apartment in Denver, invited 4 work friends, and wore a red dress I'd been saving for a special occasion I kept almost having. It was a good night, the kind that tricks you into thinking adulthood is entirely manageable. I got home around midnight, kicked off my heels, and checked my email out of habit while the kettle heated up. Between a promotional coupon and a newsletter I'd never subscribed to, there was an alert from a credit monitoring service I'd signed up for and completely forgotten about. The subject line read, "New account detected. Did you open this?" I almost archived it. Instead, I clicked. The account was a personal installment loan for $12,000, opened just 11 days ago at a lender I had never heard of. It was located in a city I had never lived in, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The mailing address attached to it was a house on Peden Lane, a place I hadn't called home since I was 19 years old. My mother's house. I stood in my kitchen in that red dress, heels still in my hand, and read the email 4 more times. Then, I set down my shoes very carefully. It felt like if I made any sudden movements, the world might crack open even faster than it already was. Let me tell you about my mother, Patricia. She is the kind of woman who enters every room like she already knows the outcome of the conversation. She spent 22 years working as a financial advisor at a mid-sized wealth management firm outside of New Orleans. She knows the language of money the way some people know scripture, fluently, selectively, and always in service of her own interpretation. My father, Douglas, runs a landscaping company that has been almost profitable for as long as I can remember. He is a gentle, distracted man who loves my mother completely and questions her about absolutely nothing. He signs whatever she puts in front of him. He always has. My younger brother, Theo, is 25. He still lives 40 minutes from home and calls our parents every Sunday like it's a religious obligation. He thinks Patricia is sharp and protective. He isn't wrong about either of those things, he is just wrong about who she's protecting. Growing up, I was considered the difficult one. Not because I broke rules, I was a straight A student, never drank in high school, and worked a part-time job at 16 to buy my own school clothes. I was difficult because I asked questions. Why is this account in both of our names? Why does my tax return need to go to your accountant? Why do you need to see my financial aid paperwork? Patricia called it being ungrateful. She had a gift for reframing control as love, and love as debt. When I left for college at 18, she helped me open a joint checking account for emergencies. She set up the online banking from her own laptop and kept the login info. She told me not to change the password because she needed access in case anything ever went wrong. I was 18, and I was tired. I said, okay. That was the door I left unlocked for 11 years. After I found that email, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and a cup of tea that went cold before I even touched it. I pulled my full credit reports from all 3 bureaus, every single line. I hadn't truly looked at them in over 2 years. I paid my bills on time and had 1 credit card with a low balance. I thought I was fine. I was not fine. There were 6 accounts I had never opened. A personal loan from 3 years ago for $8,000. A retail credit line maxed out at $2,000 from 4 years back. A second personal loan from 18 months ago, and a debt consolidation account that had swallowed 2 of the others. All of them listed the Peden Lane address. 3 of them used phone numbers I recognized as my mother's. My hands did not shake. That surprised me. I had expected panic. Instead, what moved through me was something quieter and far more permanent. It was the feeling of a suspicion I had been carrying for years, finally pressing its full weight into the floor. I opened a new document, typed the date at the top, and started listing every account, every date, and every lender. I cross-referenced what I could find online, writing down every address and phone number attached to each file. I did this for 2.5 hours without stopping. At 4 a.m., I filed a report with the FTC. I placed fraud alerts with all three bureaus and initiated a credit freeze. Then, I made one final document, a clean, simple timeline. Year by year, account by account. The pattern was not subtle once you could see the whole shape of it. I saved the folder and named it evidence, not feelings. Then I closed my laptop, lay down on my couch fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. I told exactly one person before I hired a lawyer. Her name is Renata. She is my mother's younger sister, the one who moved to Atlanta 15 years ago and only comes back for funerals. We aren't close in a way that requires constant maintenance, but we are close in a way that means we tell each other the truth because we have nothing to protect from each other. I texted her at 7 a.m., I need to talk. It's about Aunt Patricia, it's serious. She called me within 4 minutes. I told her everything I had found. As I talked, there was a long pause on her end. It wasn't the pause of someone who was surprised, but rather someone who was rearranging information they had been holding onto for a long time. When I finished, Renata said very quietly, "Celeste, I need to show you something." She had been dealing with a debt collector for 8 months over a collections notice for a credit line she had never opened. It was small, only $3,000, but persistent. When she had called the original lender to dispute it, they read back the phone number on the account. It was Patricia's cell phone number. Renata had convinced herself it was just an error. She had called my mother, who claimed it was a billing system mistake from when she helped Renata refinance her car years ago, promising she would take care of it. The calls had stopped for a few months, then started again. Renata had been too exhausted by her own life to push further. She told me she had kept every single collections letter. I asked her to scan and email them to me that afternoon. She did. Within the stack was a letter referencing a creditor whose name also appeared in my own credit file. The same lender, a different family member, the same address in New Orleans. I added Renata's documents to my folder. I found a consumer protection attorney through a referral thread in a financial literacy forum I had been reading obsessively for 3 days. Her name was Gloria. She had a calm, organized manner on the phone that made me feel like I was handing a very dangerous object to someone who actually knew how to carry it. I told her the full story in one sitting, my accounts, Renata's accounts, the timeline, the pattern. She asked careful, specific questions, never displaying dramatic outrage. She explained that what I described, if documented properly, was a textbook case of familial identity fraud. The pattern of multiple victims within the same family significantly strengthened our case. She told me to stop contacting my mother directly. She told me to save every message, every voicemail, and every text, even the ones I hadn't received yet. Then she said something that stayed with me: the goal is not revenge. The goal is documentation so thorough that the truth cannot be argued with. I like that. I wrote it down. My mother called me on a Thursday evening, 3 weeks after I found the initial email. I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered Gloria's advice about documentation, so I picked up, put the call on speaker, and hit record. Patricia opened with warmth. How was Denver? How was work? Had I eaten enough? It was the exact warm-up routine she used before asking for something she knew I wouldn't like. Then, she mentioned she had heard from someone that I was asking questions about some old accounts. I asked her which accounts. She pivoted smoothly, claiming there had been some bookkeeping confusion years ago. She said she had set things up using my information to help me build credit when I was young and didn't understand how to manage it myself. She insisted it was done for me and that she thought I understood. I asked her exactly when she had ever explained that to me. Silence. I asked if she had a copy of anything I had signed authorizing those accounts. More silence. Then, her tone turned cold. Celeste, don't do this. You don't know what you're opening. I told her I knew exactly what I was opening. I had known for 3 weeks. I told her my attorney had the documents, the bureaus had the fraud alerts, and the FTC had the report. The warmth disappeared completely. She called me ungrateful. She said she had spent my entire life trying to give me advantages I didn't appreciate, and accused me of destroying the family over a misunderstanding about paperwork. She warned me that if I kept going, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I said, "Mom, you signed my name on loans I never agreed to. That's not a misunderstanding, that's fraud." She hung up. I saved the recording and emailed it to Gloria before I went to bed. What happened next didn't happen all at once. It unfolded in slow, bureaucratic increments that don't feel cinematic until you step back and look at the whole picture. Patricia's firm launched an internal review after receiving a regulatory inquiry tied to her professional license and the pattern of accounts connected to family members. 2 of those accounts had been processed through a lender her firm had a referral relationship with, making things incredibly uncomfortable very quickly. Renata's collections dispute was formally investigated, and the creditor confirmed the account was unauthorized. The phone number and mailing address attached to it belonged to Patricia. The collections notices finally stopped. The accounts on my credit report were flagged for removal through the dispute process. One by one, they came off. It took months, and each removal felt like pulling something out of a wound. There was no single dramatic courtroom moment. There was a civil demand letter, regulatory filings, and very uncomfortable conversations between my mother's attorney and Gloria. My mother never formally admitted to anything. Her attorney framed everything as a series of well-intentioned family financial arrangements that had not been properly documented. But the accounts came off my report, and Renata's debt was discharged. Even the accounts connected to a third family member, a cousin I barely knew, were addressed. He had contacted me after finding my name mentioned in a financial abuse forum where someone had anonymously shared the resources I had compiled. Patricia's firm quietly let her go. Her professional license was suspended pending a review. I learned about the suspension through a regulatory database, not from anyone in my family. My brother Theo called me on a Sunday, his usual day for calling everyone. He said he didn't want to take sides, but thought I should have talked to Mom directly before involving lawyers. He said the family was in a bad place and felt I played a role in that. I asked him if he had pulled his own credit reports recently. Silence. I told him to pull his reports from all 3 bureaus and look for anything with the Peden Lane address attached to it. I told him to do it before he decided whose side the facts were on. He called me back 4 days later. He didn't say much. He just asked if I could send him Gloria's contact information. I sent it within the hour. My father called me once, about 6 months into the process. Douglas is not a cruel man, he is simply a man who has chosen comfort over clarity his entire life. And those choices have compounding interest, just like any other debt. He said he didn't fully understand what had happened. He explained that Patricia had always handled the finances and he trusted her. He was sorry things had gone this way, but said he didn't know what I expected him to do about it now. I told him I didn't expect him to do anything. I told him that his passivity was exactly what had made everything possible in the first place. He didn't respond to that, but he didn't hang up either. We stayed on the line in silence, the way you do when there is nothing left to argue and nothing quite ready to be forgiven. Then he said, "I hope you're okay up there, Celeste." I said, "I am." That was the most honest conversation we'd had in 15 years. Here is what my life looks like now. My credit reports are clean, and every fraudulent account has been removed. I check them every 3 months, not out of fear anymore, but out of the same practiced habit I have around locking my door or backing up my work files. Just maintenance, just care. I even got a promotion at work. I'm a data analyst for a mid-size logistics company. During my review, my manager mentioned how much she admired the way I stayed focused through what she called a rough personal year. She didn't know the full shape of that year. Most good things happen without the audience knowing the full backstory. I built a resource guide, a clean, clearly organized PDF about how familial financial abuse works, what the warning signs look like, and what steps to take if you suspect it's happening to you. I posted it in a few financial literacy communities and on a small website I put together over a weekend. It has been downloaded more than 4,000 times. I still get occasional emails from strangers saying it helped them catch something before it got worse. That number matters to me more than I expected it to. Renata visited me in Denver last spring. We went hiking, which neither of us had done in years. We talked in the way that only happens when physical exertion takes the self-consciousness out of honesty. She told me she still thought about how long she had ignored those collections letters, letting Patricia reassure her because reassurance was easier than confrontation. The small discomfort of not asking questions had protected her from a much larger reality until it didn't. I told her I had done the exact same thing for years. The joint account, the login I never changed, the mail I let go to a house I didn't live in anymore. Every small accommodation felt reasonable on its own. It was only when you laid them all out in a line that you could see what they truly added up to. She said she counted on us not looking at the whole line. That's exactly right. People who build systems of quiet harm count on compartmentalization. They count on each person only seeing their own piece, their own small confusion, their own private reason to just let it go. The power in what I did, what Renata did, and eventually what Theo did, was simply deciding to look at the entire line at the exact same time. My mother has not contacted me in 8 months. I don't know what her daily life looks like now. I know the house on Peden Lane was sold, and I know she is working in a role that has absolutely nothing to do with financial advising. I know my father's landscaping company is still operating, though it's smaller than it used to be. I know these things from my brother and from a cousin's offhand comment. I don't seek them out. I am not tracking her the way she tracked my information, quietly, persistently, in the background. I don't want to live like that. What I want, and what I am slowly building, is a life that belongs entirely to me. An apartment I chose, a job I earned, and a credit file that reflects only my own decisions. Friendships that cost nothing but honesty. I don't have a neat ending to offer you, because neat endings are what people construct when they just want the story to be over. This story isn't over, it's just in a different chapter. It's a chapter where the central conflict is no longer survival, but ordinary life. And if you have spent years fighting simply to be seen as a full person rather than a financial resource, ordinary life is more valuable than any dramatic resolution. If you are somewhere in the middle of recognizing what I recognized, that feeling of a number that doesn't add up, a letter from somewhere you've never been, or a login someone else knows, here is what I want you to hear. You are not paranoid for checking. Pull your reports. All free. Look at every single line, every address, every phone number, and every lender name. If something is not yours, it does not matter who opened it or what story they have to justify it. It is not yours, and you have every right to say so. Write things down. Save everything. Record what you are legally allowed to record. Create a folder and call it whatever helps you take it seriously. Talk to a professional, not a family member, and not a friend who knows both of you. Speak to an attorney, a consumer protection agency, or the FTC. There are free resources available, and there are people whose entire job is to help you navigate exactly this. And if the person who did this is someone you love, someone who raised you, helped you, or told you for years that they were doing you a favor, know that holding them accountable does not mean you are a bad person. It means you are the first person in this situation who decided that truth mattered more than comfort. The people who built the system of silence will call that betrayal. Call it by its real name instead. Call it turning on the lights. My name is Celeste. I'm 29 years old. I do not owe anyone my financial future, my signature, or my silence. And neither do you.